Court is calling 2023 CR 7883 and 2023 CR 7884, State versus Camillus Galvan. Can I have parties announced?
Raymond Martinez for Mr. Galvan.
And are you Mr. Galvan?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you entered a plea of no contest in each of these cause numbers. According to your plea bargain agreement, punishment is to be assessed at 6 years in the prison. The state opposes your applications and each cause number. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report?
I have, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Any objections to the PSI report?
Your Honor.
Any witnesses?
Judge, I think I'd like to call Mr. Galvan's mother just to
Sure.
talk about something that came up in PSI.
All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
I'm Ruby Galvan.
All right, defense, you may proceed.
Ms. Galvan, first thing I want to start with is, have you ever had difficulty with Camillus in terms of him violating the law, like what happened in this situation?
No, sir.
From the time he was a juvenile up until becoming an adult, has he given you trouble at home?
No, he has not.
Okay, so was this situation a surprise to you and the family when you found out that he'd gotten arrested?
Yes, it was a big surprise to me.
Since he's been on bond, has he followed all the rules of the court?
Yes, he has.
Okay, and how long has it been since we've been litigating this case?
This month will be 2 years now.
Okay, and has he complied with all the conditions of his probation? I mean, his pretrial,
Yes, he has,
including the monitor?
including the monitor.
Has he had the monitor the entire time that he's been out of custody?
No, sir.
So when did it go on? They put it on?
They put it on as soon as everything happened, so possibly he was on monitor for about 2 weeks, if I can recall.
Okay, so I'm talking about the ankle monitor that he has on his leg.
He does not have an ankle monitor. on his leg.
I was confused with that. Okay, how long did he spend in jail before he was released on bond?
From what I recall, it was about 5 or 6 months.
Was that done intentionally by you and his father so he would learn a lesson, or was there a reason why he stayed in jail that long?
So I've never gotten in trouble with the law. So when I'm raising my boys, I told them, you know, your choices are your own. Like, they're not mine. Don't put, like, never put that on me. But I did tell them that. I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Did y'all purposely leave him in jail for a while before you bonded him out?
Yes, so I told his father that he did need to learn his lesson because he didn't have a reason to run away from the police. He had a driver's license. He had just graduated. That's why he got a vehicle. We bought him a vehicle. And prior to that, somebody had took his license plate from the back and we had made a police report that he couldn't drive the car until we got a new license plate, and he didn't follow that. He didn't listen to me when he told him to not drive that vehicle.
So the only issue that was going on that day was that the car that he was driving didn't have the correct plates on it.
Yeah, it was missing a plate in the back.
And it wasn't because the car wasn't legal or registered, because somebody stole the plate.
Yeah, somebody stole the plate. It wasn't, none of that was the reason.
And you had asked him to not use the car until that got fixed.
Correct, because we made a police report about the license plate missing in the back.
Okay. Now, has there been an incident in the past where a family member of his or somebody close to him had some bad experiences with the police?
Well, we have a family history with my siblings, and it's just my side of the family. They're always doing things that they're not supposed to be doing.
Okay. Well, there's a particular reason, if you know, why Camillus might have been afraid to have an interaction with a police officer.
Yeah, so he always hears about, just on TV, I guess, what they watch on the social media, that, you know, officers shooting individuals for no reason, sometimes just things like that.
Okay, but nothing of personal experience on his part, because he's never been in trouble with the law. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did you know that he was with his cousin that day?
No, I did not. I was at work.
Okay, so was his cousin supposed to be with him, or was his cousin supposed to be in school?
His cousin was supposed to be at school from I mean, his cousin lived nearby, but his cousin was supposed to be at food testing, I believe.
Okay, and so that's another thing that maybe he didn't want to get discovered, that basically his cousin was playing hooky and he was helping him do that.
That's not what it was. My nephew had been back and forth for the past week. I guess his parent had kicked him out and he was staying at cousin's house nearby. And I know that they had been seeing him during that week, just driving him back and forth to school.
So Camillus was doing him a favor to get him to school.
Correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, had he been using any substances or drinking or anything like that when he was driving that day?
No.
Okay. And he still lived home at time.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I've read in the PSI report that you might be undergoing some medical issues at this time. Is that right?
That's correct.
Can you tell the judge about that?
Oh yeah. In September, I got Bell's palsy, so the right side of my face went totally paralyzed all the way down to my neck. So I'm still going through therapy and all that for that reason.
Has Camillus been helping you with that?
Oh yeah, he's been driving me to all my therapy appointments. I just went back to work in February, so with my little things here and there, he'll drive me to work and back. But I'm able to drive myself now. But when everything happened, I couldn't even speak. Most of my vision was very blurry and always running, like my eyes was tearing a lot. So he did a lot of driving for me.
If he's granted probation by this court, is he allowed to continue to live in your home?
Oh yes, me and his father fully support him.
Are you confident that he will comply with any conditions imposed by the court?
Oh yes, he will. He's been doing that for the past 2 years now.
Anything else about him that you would like the court to know before she makes her decision about what to do with his case?
Camillus was 18 at the time, and I know that, his thought process is still pretty young. He's still young. He's about to be 21 in July. He's done everything that he was supposed to do when he was in high school. He's graduated. I'm really proud of him because coming from a family of 10, I was the first to graduate. I was, the 10. I was child number 6, and I always wanted my son to kind of follow my footsteps. And he's my firstborn, so he graduated like he was supposed to. So he's never done anything bad. He's always helping the neighborhood, helping the neighbors. All the kids play basketball in front of our house because they're good role models. So that's how I raised them to be.
That's witness judge.
State.
Ms. Galvan, you stated the car that your son was driving on the date of the offense, that was the car that you and his father bought him?
That's correct. Yeah, I remember graduating.
Okay, and so there was an incident there, you didn't have a license plate, is that correct?
Correct. That was the week prior. We had a police report that it was missing.
Okay, and so if I'm understanding correctly, you had instructed him to not drive the motor vehicle until you were able to obtain the new plates, and he did not follow your instructions.
That's correct.
Okay. Now regarding his cousin Damian Borjas, are they related through you or through your husband?
They're related to my sister, my cousin.
Okay, so Damian is your blood nephew.
Correct.
Okay, and he was 16 years old at the time, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so I guess he was kind of down and out at the time, right? Because he got kicked out, he didn't have a place to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have you heard that your son Camillus initially instructed Damian to lie and say that he was the one driving because he was a juvenile, and Camillus thought that the law would be easier on him for punishment? Were you aware of that?
At the time, I was not until everything happened, and then I was very sad to hear that my nephew was in juvenile, knowing the fact that his, the situation was already in that week, getting kicked out. My sister hasn't been in his life since he's been, since his father got custody of him. So that made me really sad.
And I guess as a result of that, even though Damian wasn't driving, he had to stay in juvenile from May to August of 2023 until the authorities were able to further investigate and determine that Camillus was the driver of the vehicle. Were you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And, at the time of the offense, is Camilla living with you?
That's correct.
Okay, and was he working?
Yes, he was working at Foot Locker.
Okay, and I guess, do you know why he was not at work that day, or why, or what was he supposed to be doing instead of what was going on?
So he was supposed to be home. I don't think he was working on that day. Usually my sibling was the one picking up Damien back and forth that week.
Okay.
And I guess he knew that Damien needed to do STAR testing. I think so. I guess that's when he decided to go do it. It's close by, it was nearby. From what I.
And again, have you had an opportunity to review any of the evidence in this case?
We did. We saw a few of the videos.
Okay, and so are you aware of the injuries that the deputy sustained from the collision?
We did see some old video of him getting carried away. I think something on his knee.
Yeah, you had some lacerations, correct?
I'm not sure what that is.
Do you recall if he was bleeding from anywhere?
I think he's great.
So did you see the video where he was maybe hit and he was having issues breathing because he blacked out from the impact?
No, I did not.
I mean, do you think that's fair that he had to sustain that just because Camillus didn't feel like stopping and obeying the authorities on that day?
No, I did not.
Possibly.
Ms. Galvan, eventually the police came back and they tried to sort out who was driving the vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
And at some point, Camillus admitted that he was the one that was driving.
That's
Is
correct.
that right? So that his nephew wouldn't get stuck being prosecuted for something he didn't do.
That's correct.
And Camillus didn't do that because somebody forced him to. He volunteered to tell them, yes, it was me that was driving, it wasn't him.
Yes, that's correct. I always told him to speak the truth.
And in fact, when he did that, he probably didn't even have a lawyer at the time.
That is correct. We did not have a lawyer yet. We didn't have the funds to get a lawyer.
Do you remember what the circumstances were as to, did the police call him in for questioning? Did he go to their office? How did that happen?
I was at work again that day and the police came, so he was supposed to do, I guess, UA that day, and they called him in to question him. That's.
So he went down to the pretrial to give a UA,
Mhm.
and then the police decided to take advantage of that and question him about the case.
That's correct.
And it was in that setting, he didn't have a lawyer, correct?
That's correct.
And he voluntarily told them, hey, it was me driving, not my cousin.
That's correct.
And did Camillus relate that to you and his father after that happened?
Yes.
Okay. Does it surprise you that he did the right thing and admitted his responsibility in this case?
It didn't surprise me that he did the right thing. He knows that he needed to do the right thing.
Okay. And so you're perfectly fine with him doing that?
Well, not that they questioned him without a lawyer. You know, I wasn't okay with that.
Okay. But you believe that's within his character, and what the court could expect from him is that when he's presented with a decision, he's going to make the right one,
Yes, that's correct.
despite his actions on that particular day.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
No further questions.
All right, thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other witnesses?
Just Mr. Galvan, Judge.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Yes, Galvan.
All right, defense, you may proceed.
And Mr. Galvan, you've already told the pre-sentencing officer at the probation your version of what took place, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
But I want to ask you some more questions about that, okay? At the time you were driving, did you have a driver's license?
yes, sir.
Did the car have insurance?
Yes, sir.
What time of the day or night was it when the officers first attempted to pull you over?
So my cousin called me around I guess he woke up around 10. So he had to take a STAR test. So I would say around 11, that's when.
Okay. And what was your cousin asking you to do?
If I could take him to school because he needed to take a STAR test.
Okay, and I'm sure the judge knows what that is, but for the record, what is a STAR test?
It's a test that you need to take so you could be able to pass the next grade.
And what were you doing when he called you?
Um, I was getting prepared to get ready for work, but I go to work around 3. So around that time, I start my morning.
Okay. And so where did the two of you decide to go after you picked him up?
We decided to get some breakfast, and we never made it there.
Okay. And so what was the circumstances, if you know, as to why the officer was pulling you over? What happened?
I really don't know. So prior to that, we had an issue where my belt broke, and like honestly, I can't even be speeding. I wasn't doing nothing. So like we said that my license plate was stolen. So me thinking I could move my front plate to my back, the back of my car to my back plate, and so I could be able to take my cousin to school.
So it wasn't so much that you didn't want to do what your parents asked, but you needed to take that test.
Yeah.
Okay. So where were you roughly when you first noticed that the officer wanted you to pull over?
I believe I'm honestly, I really don't remember.
Okay, well, what general area of town are you at?
Southwest. I'm right there by the I'm not sure the street, but I know I coming from Walmart towards it's not sure the street.
Okay. Well, let me help you a little bit. So the biggest portion of the time when the officers are chasing you are on Old Pearsall Road, is that right?
Oh yes.
Okay, and that's 410 and Highway 90 roughly. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Oh yes, sir.
Okay. And so initially you see the lights come on and you decide not to stop. What's going through your mind at that point?
Honestly, I didn't know there was a officer behind me. My car's tinted, so I can't really see behind. Like, I didn't see no lights.
Okay. So when did you at any point did you notice that the officer was behind you and wanted to pull you?
No, I didn't notice. The only time I noticed was whenever my cousin told me.
Okay. So when your cousin tells you, are you still on Old Pearsall Road?
Yes, I'm trying to make it home.
And where's home?
Uh,
And so why is it your decision to try to get home versus just to pull over and see what he wants?
Just scared.
Okay. Did you have any drugs or anything like that on you?
No.
Had you been drinking?
I don't do that.
Had
I
you-
don't.
Were you under the influence of any kind of drugs?
Oh no, sir.
Did you have any warrants?
Um,
Okay. Did you have anything in the car that was illegal? What about your cousin?
nope. My car was brand new. Like, I didn't have nothing in the car other than my insurance, the papers towards the car, nothing else.
Okay. Did they find, once you and your cousin got found and you got arrested, did either one of you get found with any contraband on you?
No, Your Honor. I mean, no, sir.
So let's talk about after you do realize that the officer's behind you, at some point, as you told the judge, you just kept going to try to make it to your house.
Yes.
And how far were you from your house when this accident occurred?
I didn't make it towards my house. I went a little bit further down.
Okay. So describe where, so the officer eventually tries to deploy spikes to stop your car, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell us more or less where that is in relation to Old Pearsall Road in 410?
Is this further down by southwest the high school? So like if you were gonna go straight down that way from Old Pearsall.
Okay. And when do you first notice that there might be something in the road that's going to disable your car?
As soon as I hit the bridge, like a little bit more further down.
Where's there a bridge?
It's about a mile from my house.
Okay. And so you come over the bridge. Do you see the officer stopped on the side of the road?
Yes.
Okay. At any point did you notice that there was spikes in the road?
Yes.
Okay. And how close or far were you from that when you first noticed it?
I was probably like around 400 feet.
Okay. And how fast are you going?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Would you agree that you were probably going faster than the speed limit?
Yes.
Okay. What do you do when you realize that the spikes are across the road and it's going to blow out all your tires? What course of action do you take?
I hit the brakes and I lost control.
how did you lose control? Tell me about that.
My traction wasn't on, so when I hit the brakes and whatever speed I was going towards, I wasn't trying to hit the spike, so I tried braking, and when I broke, my wheel turned towards the grass area, and that's when I lost control.
Okay, so Old Pearsall Road at this point, is it a 2 or a 4-lane road?
It's a 2-lane.
Okay, one lane in each direction?
No, so it's a 4-lane.
Okay, so there's 2 lanes in each direction.
Yes, sir.
And as you're approaching the officer, is he to the right side of the road or the left side of the road?
So me going down, he's on my left side.
Okay.
So
Is his car like in the street or in the grass?
both,
Okay, so he's right on the shoulder and partly in the grass.
yes,
Okay, but you clearly see that there's spikes in the road.
yes.
Okay, and where are the spikes in relation to where his car is?
I guess like towards the other lane.
Okay, so in other words, are the spikes close to his car?
Yes.
Okay, so did you actually hit the spikes?
No.
Okay, and why is that?
I lost control, and
Okay.
I went towards the grass.
And did you go towards the grass on the side where he's parked or on the opposite side?
Where he's parked, I was trying to avoid him because he was trying to throw his spikes.
Okay, so everything you were doing was to try to avoid the spikes and avoid him.
Yes.
And when you hit the brakes, what would you estimate your speed was at that point?
Say like around 120.
Okay, so very fast.
Yes.
Okay. Did you try to intentionally hit the officer's car?
No.
Did you, in fact, at some point, when you lost control, went off the roadway into the grass, did you actually impact his car?
Yes. Once I lost control, my back of my car hit the side of his front of like the grill towards his car.
So you didn't hit it head on.
No.
Matter of fact, didn't even hit it solidly.
No.
Fair to say?
It was more like a scrape.
Okay, so you brushed by it.
Yes.
Okay. Where was the officer when you lost control of the car and you realized you're going to go off the roadway? Could you see where he was?
I saw him running behind his cruiser.
So you could see him trying to get out of the way.
Yes.
From what you could see, did it appear that he could see you lost control of the car and that you were going off the roadway?
No.
Okay. He's just getting out of the way.
Yes.
Okay. And did the impact of your car on his cause either one of you to get injured?
Honestly, I think we all got injured that day.
Did you see how, in fact, he got impacted? Once you glanced off of his car, what caused him to either fall or get hit or whatever happened to him?
I'm not sure. Once I got hit, we spun out. So I was just clueless to what happened until I got out the car.
And then you and your cousin got out and ran into the fields. Is that right?
Not intentionally. When I got out the car, I tried to help the officer, and I didn't know like what the consequences were, so took off.
So what was his condition when you saw him?
Oh, he was on the ground.
Okay. Did you talk to him?
Oh no.
Was he alert in terms of he was breathing, he was conscious? what you could tell?
When I saw him, I just saw him like roll over. So like he was breathing. Like I said, I didn't know what was gonna happen. So my intention was to help him, but I don't know who was behind me or honestly, like you can never tell if someone's trying to harm an officer, but I wasn't trying to.
Okay. So at this point, you're really scared.
Yes.
And you have no idea what's going to happen to you, what's happened to him, and you find yourself in a big mess.
Yes.
And this is essentially what you told the pre-sentence investigation officer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, all this is on video, correct?
Yes.
And you've watched that video, right?
Yes.
You see where the cars are, where the officer is, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yes.
And you saw people come help the officer, and you know that he was conscious and walking and alert afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Although clearly he looked like he'd been injured.
Yes, he looked injured, but I did hear on the video call or the videos that he was on the phone with his wife or whatever, that he said he was okay.
So after you got put into custody, you could hear some of the radio transmissions.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you accept at this point, Camila said, obviously you should have pulled over when the officer wanted you to pull over.
Yes.
And though, even though you may not believe, you don't believe that you intended to hurt the officer, you understand your reckless driving had that consequence.
Yes.
And that's why you pled to this case.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And so, during the time that you've been on pretrial, what conditions has the court had in place for you?
But during the time when I got out, I had to be on house arrest. I was on house arrest for 2 weeks until they came to pick me up again and take me back to jail with where I did 6 months. When I got out, they put me back on monitor. And I was on it for like at least a week, and until I got it taken out.
Okay. But did they make you report to pretrial?
Oh yes, I report to pretrial every month.
Okay. And then do UAs?
Yes.
How many times have you been UA'd since you've been on pretrial? Do you think, roughly?
I would say at least 28 times.
Okay. Any positives?
Oh no, sir.
Okay. What about work? What have you been doing for work in this time?
I haven't been doing nothing.
Okay. And why haven't you been working?
Because during that time I was helping my mom.
What were you doing for work before this all occurred?
I was working at Kids Foot Locker.
Okay. Salesperson?
Yes, sir.
And is that job available to you again, do you think?
No, sir.
What do you have planned for the future in terms of work or school?
I wanna probably be a mechanic or own my own little business. I know my uncle started their own little business. I wanna try to follow through that too.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell the judge about why she should give you deferred as opposed to making you serve a sentence?
During the time I was incarcerated, I don't want to be in jail. I've seen so much. I actually have uncles that were in prison. I had one that came out, and I never got to see him again. But I'm a good kid. I graduated. I don't partake in any drugs or alcohol. I just stay home. And on my free time, I like to restore shoes and clean them. So that's mainly what I do right now.
That's what it says.
All right. Let me just tell you something before the state starts. Whenever I would have people in my family who wanted to do something, you know what they would always start with? I don't do drugs, I don't belong in a gang, and I don't commit crimes. And you know what the adult would always say? Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So I want you to know that I'm internalizing everything that you're saying, and I understand that this is probably the first traumatic incident that you've had. So I want you to know that I'm listening to you. All right. All right. You may proceed with your questions.
Mr. Galvan, so I'm a little confused and I'm just hoping that you can clarify a couple of things. Okay. So you were with your cousin Damien on the date of the offense, correct?
Yes,
And he was 16 years old on that day, correct?
yes, ma'am.
And it's your testimony that he had to take the STAR test, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so back when I was in high school, STAR testing would start promptly at like 8:45 or 9 a.m. So why was you and your cousin out? This call started at 11:42 a.m.
Like I said, he woke up late at 10. He still had the chance to take the STAR test. So I wanted to be able to help him. So I was trying to take him to school.
Okay, how do you know that he still had the opportunity to take the test?
I believe they called him and they said that he was able to take the STAR test still.
Okay, and so then he contacts you and you agree to give him a ride.
Initially, I don't know if I was the first contact, but I know I was the contact where I was the only ride he had.
Okay, and so even though he's already late to take the STAR test, you guys still were gonna stop for breakfast before you dropped him off at school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So then you said you're confused about why the officer was gonna pull you over, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and so you've reviewed the evidence in the case, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so if we have stipulated evidence that states that the officer observed you driving on the wrong side of the road and driving at excessive speeds, and that's when he decided to turn his lights on and pull you over, are you saying that he's lying in his report?
Honestly, yes.
Yes?
Mhm.
Okay, and so you said that you didn't see the red and blue lights because you have a tent.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have hearing problems?
No.
Okay, so if the officer says that you had the sirens on, you're just saying that you were unable to hear them?
We were listening to music at the time.
Okay, so I guess how loud was the music? Loud enough that you wouldn't hear the sirens?
Yes.
All right, okay, and so then the officer decides to deploy his emergency lights and sirens. And then you don't stop, that's correct, right? Okay, and so once the lights and sirens come on, that's also activates the dash cam that is connected to the officer's vehicle. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay, so have you seen the video from the officer that was trying to pull you over?
Yes.
Okay, and so you can see your car driving at excessive speeds, correct?
After the fact.
After the lights are already on.
Mhm.
Okay, and you're driving at excessive speed, correct? Okay, at one point you try to go get on 410 and then decide to turn around and drive the wrong way to get back on Old Highway or Old Pearsall Road, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's displayed in the video, right? Okay, and then when you're coming over the bridge on Old Pearsall Road, you said that you could see the deputy's patrol car, right? And the sign from the road?
Not until like I really got closer.
Okay,
Cause I was mainly like checking all my mirrors. Like I wasn't trying to cause any accident.
okay, and so that deputy's dash cam, he also had an in-car, so the car that, the in-car, the car that you collided with, that patrol vehicle, it had a dash cam as well. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And so, I mean, have you seen that dash cam? That dash cam displays you driving on the wrong side of the road from when you're coming down off the bridge.
I don't recall.
You don't recall that?
No, I wasn't. Like I said, I as soon as I got on the wrong side of the road was whenever I avoided I was on the lane he was trying to supply. So I lost control, and that's whenever I got on the wrong side. I was always on the proper side when I was driving.
And so you collide with the patrol vehicle and you spin out. The patrol vehicle hits the deputy, sends him flying, is that correct?
I'm not. Oh, well, yes.
Yes, right? Okay, and so when you get off of your vehicle, you see him lying on the floor, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna just say yes or no.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, and then later on, when you are interviewed by detectives, you said that part of the reason that you took off is because you didn't know if you were gonna be charged with murder, is that correct?
No, that's not what I said.
That's not what you said in your
No,
interview?
that's not what I said.
So if I have a police report, and the video is stipulated too, so the judge has it, that's just, you're saying it's inaccurate.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't remember saying murder in my testimony.
Okay, well, nonetheless, you did not know whether that deputy was alive or not, correct?
No, I did know he was alive.
You
When
didn't
I
know
was
what-
when I was in the car, I could hear the radio saying that he's okay.
But that was 2 hours later.
That was
wasn't it?
not 2 hours later.
So when you're saying when you
Oh,
were
wait,
in your
actually,
car,
yes, it was 2 hours later,
It
but
was.
like, yeah.
because after you crashed out and to the cornfield, correct?
Mhm.
You take off running with your cousin. And then y'all, helicopters deployed, search teams looking for y'all all over Highway 90 and Old Pearsall Road, and y'all weren't found for 2 hours later, correct?
I'm not sure it was 2 hours later, but I know during that run, I did tell my cousin we needed to surrender. I wasn't, you know,
Okay, and you also told him at that time that y'all needed to switch clothes, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and so you switched clothes because you didn't want them to know that you were the driver, right?
yes.
And you told your cousin that he needed to switch clothes with you because the criminal justice system would be easier on him because he was a juvenile, correct?
Didn't say that. Yes.
Now, today it's your testimony that you tried to help the officer before you took off. Is that what you testified to?
That was always my testimony.
Okay, and so if there were witnesses on scene, well, are you gonna dispute the video evidence? Because there's no video of you ever going to check on the deputy. There were multiple cameras
Well,
in the area.
there was multiple, but all I heard was, I don't know, I heard some screaming. So when I heard screaming, I went back to my car and I took off.
Okay, and there's also a good Samaritan that stopped to help the officer. And he said that you immediately took off, so are you calling him a liar too?
So I got out of my car, I saw the officer, I was gonna go up to him, and then I heard that guy yelling at us. He was cussing at us and everything. So me and my cousin took off.
Now I want to talk to you about the interview that you gave to your PSI officer. So in the interview to the PSI officer, you're not really taking responsibility for your actions. To me, it seems like you're kind of blaming the officer because in your opinion, he didn't deploy the spikes correctly. Is that true?
I'm not blaming the officer, but in the video, it looked like he didn't know how to deploy the spikes.
Okay. Are you a law enforcement officer?
I'm not.
Have you ever gone through any law enforcement training?
No, I have not.
Okay, so you don't know what is the correct way to deploy spikes, correct?
I've seen videos when they deploy spikes.
Okay, well, are you aware that the Berry County Sheriff's Office teaches their deputies that they're supposed to deploy the spikes and get behind the motor vehicle?
I did not know that.
So you wouldn't know that this deputy was actually in accordance with his training, correct? When you hit him.
Correct.
Okay, and so in your PSI, you said you think the officer could have laid the spikes properly. If he didn't run in the opposite direction, he would not have been injured. Is that correct?
No, that's not what I meant. I guess you didn't correctly write down my testimony, but like I said, in the video, it looked like he didn't properly throw the spikes down on time. So during that time, he ran towards the back of his car.
Okay, I mean, and you're aware that in watching the video, the reason that he started running behind is because he saw you coming at access that he could run at, correct?
No, I wasn't going towards him. If I was going towards him, it would have looked like I was trying to hit him. I wasn't trying to hit him. I didn't even make it past him or towards him.
Okay, we'll just agree to this. And in regards to your sentencing today, you said that you think that this is excessive. Is that true?
What is excessive?
It says, how do you feel about the plea agreement and your upcoming sentencing? I think it is excessive. I am not a bad kid.
Yes.
Okay.
I already did some time. During that time, I reflected on myself and my actions. And during that time, when I was in jail, I did write an apology letter to the office.
Okay. Well, do you think, if you look at the evidence in Terry's telling, okay, the officer goes flying into the air. He starts wheezing because he can't breathe because the impact was so tough on him. And while you're running in the cornfield, that's what he was sustaining. Do you think that that's fair?
I'm not saying it's fair, but he did not go as far as in the air.
He didn't go far up into the air.
No, he did not.
Okay.
As far as you're saying in the air, he needs to find the air from it.
Well, I don't really think it matters how far he shouldn't have been hit at all.
I agree with that.
Okay, and so earlier you said that you didn't even see if he got hit or what happened to him, and now you're saying it wasn't high enough?
I've seen the video.
Okay. My question is, do you think it's fair that this deputy sustained injuries on account of you?
I don't think it's fair.
We passed the witness.
Any
No
other
further
questions?
questions, Judge.
All right. So what school were you taking your cousin to?
I'm not sure what school it was called, but it was down the street. Cause I went to Southwest Legacy, and his school is by I don't recall the street, but it's by Indian Creek. So it's not by Indian Creek, but it's like more on the opposite side. So Medina base. So going towards Medina base.
All right. So why were you traveling the incorrect way on the road?
I was always traveling the correct way. The only time I was on the opposite side was whenever I lost control.
Does anybody want to address that? Because maybe I'm reading the stipulations incorrectly. Why was the police officer pulling him over in the first place or attempting to pull him over? Wasn't it because he was driving on the wrong side of it?
In the wrong lane towards oncoming traffic. And the dash cam I believe was stipulated to, and it shows at multiple times, at least 3 times that I can recount off the top of my head, which is when the officer first lights him up. He's driving on the wrong side of the road. Then when he comes up to 410, he attempts to get on to 410 and then changes his mind and turns back around in the on-ramp. So again, going into oncoming traffic, then gets onto Old Pearsall Road. And then when he's coming off the bridge, again, is on the wrong side of the road.
So why were you traveling on the wrong side of the road?
I wasn't traveling on the wrong side of the road. Like I said, I didn't see the police officer. The only time I've seen the videos, and then it looked like he stopped me from a block away from my cousin's school.
Mhm.
So I was traveling at the right amount of speed. I was doing everything correctly.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else?
Just argument.
All right. Does anyone want to address? I'm assuming the officer was paid through workers' compensation or no?
I saw that, Judge. I also saw in the PSI that he suggested he was going to submit a victim impact as well as his out of pocket, and I don't know that ever got accomplished.
To my knowledge, I was never submitted to the PSI officer, and I don't have that.
All right. Are you all going to be asking for restitution?
Not in what I'm asking.
And
Oh.
Judge, just to address that, your question more completely, we're more than happy to pay his out of pocket, whatever the insurance didn't cover, deductibles, anything else. If it would have been in the PSI, we would have gladly stipulated to it. The workers' comp is a little bit of a different issue. That's not really money out of his
Yes.
pocket. But we are not going to contest restitution if it comes in later.
All right. So the court will hear argument. State you're asking your posted application.
Look at the stipulated to evidence, including the video evidence. It is very telling as to the events that occurred on the day of the offense, which includes a very lengthy case. The Bear County Sheriff's Office trying to pull this defendant over. There were multiple units deployed to pull him over, and he just didn't stop. He was driving recklessly. There were multiple other cars on the road at the times that he was driving on the wrong side of the road, at the time that he was driving at excess speed, at the time that he tried to get onto 410 and then turned around in the on-ramp and was driving into oncoming traffic. And then ultimately, when he was on Old Pearsall Road, coming down off that bridge, multiple vehicles had to pull over to get out of his way until he crashed into that Bear County Sheriff's Office patrol vehicle, and then did send the officer flying. He had multiple lacerations. He's bleeding. His canine was in the unit that was hit. If you look at the officer's body worn camera, that should be stipulated to evidence. He was wheezing. He blacked out. A Good Samaritan had to pull over and stop the deputy that initially started the traffic stop on this defendant, and had to put his hands up and wave him down and get aid for the officer. And the defendant has no remorse in the PSI. He's criticizing the deputy's law enforcement tactics on how to deploy spikes. That is insulting, to say the least. And the officer was acting in his lawful duties, deploying the spikes, trying to pull this defendant over, and he, despite what he said, did not try to go check on the officer. He ran into the cornfield, evaded for at least 2 more hours. During the time where they're evading, he switches clothes with his 16-year-old cousin and says, "Hey, let's switch clothes. So when they pull us over, they'll think that you're the one that was driving because you're only a juvenile and the law will do it easier on you." That type of behavior should not be rewarded at all, Your Honor. And so we're asking that you sentence him to 6 years.
All right, defense.
Judge, starting from the starting point of why they're pulling him over, somebody saying he's driving on the wrong side of the road versus maybe he's passing people or driving too fast, that's undisputed that his driving was not the way it should have been. We're not fighting, that's not the issue. It's undisputed that he didn't pull over like he was supposed to. He's admitted to that. That's never been the issue in this case. It's not why it took us so long to get here. The evading and the reasonable suspicion, it's all in the stipulated evidence. So we're not going to contest that. The issue is whether or not he had no intention of hurting the officer. The reason we make an issue about the spikes, and maybe the way he articulates it doesn't sound good to the court or to the state, but you wouldn't normally deploy spikes and then stand right next to him when the car is going to come over the spikes. Clearly, that's a dangerous situation. I think Camillus came over the hill. He was closer to him than the officer realized he was. It's obvious that he's trying to avoid him. He veers off the road. Whether he loses controls or he veers off, he taps the patrol car. He doesn't run into it. He's trying to avoid it. He doesn't want to have an accident. It's his brand new car. Why would he want to do that? He doesn't want to blow out his tires. He doesn't have a brand new car. He doesn't want to damage it. But it just, circumstances were such, the speed that he's traveling, that's his fault. He's evading, and that's his fault. But he doesn't hit the officer. He hits the car that bumps, and then the officer's on the other side or somewhere near it. That's all he was trying to express, is that if he'd laid out the spikes and been further away from them, when the car gets there, there would have been no reason for the officer to be injured, right? So it was a series of events that started with his bad behavior, that he's taking responsibility for, that he's pleading to. He spent 5 months in jail over, and his parents left him there for 5 months. That got him here. And we are accepting of all of that. So the fact that he's quarreling with, hey, I didn't mean to injure the officer, that's the central theme of this litigation. The case was plea bargained down from aggravated assault against police officer to an assault against police officer for that reason. And it's all in the video. So unlike the case you had earlier today, yes, we can watch the video and see for ourselves what exactly happened. And I think he's been compliant with pretrial because he knows what he's facing. He's never been in trouble before, hasn't been in trouble since. He's a first-time offender. And while it's true you can sometimes have a serious enough offense your first time to go to prison, I don't think this case quite gets there, Judge. And we would respectfully request that you grant him deferred on both of these cases.
All right, this is what the court is going to do. The court is going to retain jurisdiction in each of the cause numbers. The court is going to find him guilty. Court will sentence him to a $2,000 fine. Time and money to run concurrent. The cases will run concurrently, taking consideration 2023 CR 7882. There's to be restitution to Officer Molina, credit for any time served, and the court will sentence you to 4 years in the prison. Did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and sign it in all the appropriate places?
Yes,
All right, because it's a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waive your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because these are felony convictions, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand? All right, we can go off the record. So the state was asking for 6. I took in consideration your age, and I understand how sometimes things can get out of control for younger people, and you make one bad decision, and then the bad decisions from there just piled on one after the other. But the court will retain jurisdiction. Is there anything else?
Your Honor, may I speak, please?
Sure. Well, does your attorney want you to speak? I think you should talk to your attorney before you speak.
Let me ask you a question, Judge, just so I can be clear before I explain to him what all you just did. Is the time frame for the jurisdiction under that section that you're referring to begin from today? We're not going to
Yes.
count. We're not going to count as
Yes.
past credit. Okay.
So, all right. Thank you.